Monday night, 2 minute drill. It's Jim Monahan along with Chris Swendeman. Swendeman, how was your week?
It was good. I will say not as good for Knicks fans, but I will say I had a really good week. A lot of great sports that I watched this weekend. It was a good time.
You mentioned the Knicks. Now that the fans have had a little bit of time to just kind of decompress from what happened in the game 6 loss, if you are a Knicks fan and you aren't optimistic for next year and really pleased, I get it. They lost to the Pacers. I understand. But really pleased with what the Knicks did this season and especially in the playoffs. You watch what
Right.
they did with the Pistons, and
Yep.
you and I had talked about this before. What a thoroughly enjoyable series that was. Back and forth, two teams battling it out. I thought the Knicks were going to be gassed after that. They come on, and I get it that Tatum was removed from the series from the Celtics with that injury. But the way they came out in those first two games in Boston, like, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? And then, like a championship fight with the Pacers, just two teams just going back and forth and back and forth. I was stunned that it got to a game 6.
I really thought it was going back to the Garden. I really did. We talked about it last week. I thought the Knicks were going to win. And until game 6, when Indiana just laid the hammer down, this was a team that said, we are not going back to New York. And they showed it. And, the thing was that if I was a Knicks fan, what would frustrate me was Halliburton really didn't show himself the way he played the rest of the series until probably about 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. They had every opportunity. And the guys that they got, the Mikal Bridges of the world, Carl Anthony Towns, the guys they brought in to get them over the hump from last year just weren't there when they needed them. And we've talked about it before. Carl Anthony Towns just does not take smart, fouls and at the worst opportune times. And I think that, showed itself among other things. And, they really clamped down, Indiana did, and props to them and their defense for really clamping down on Brunson. But Brunson is the star of the show for them, and they have a really bright future. I think the team probably look very similar to what you saw this year for Knicks fans. But I mean, you got to be excited because there's that natural progression. Last year, it was an early out. This year, they beat Boston, Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, Knicks fans, you haven't been this excited for a team that's had this much, action into the postseason since 1999. There's a lot of reasons to be excited, but I think Indiana was just the better team. They were deeper, they had better role players, and I think they used more of their bench than Thibodeau did. And while Tibbs, I think, did a good job, I just think they were outmatched. They did get outmatched, for this series.
We talked last week about this. Thibodeau's hands were kind of tied because of the foul trouble that you just alluded
Right.
to, and he had to
Hmm.
go to his bench differently than he might have
Right.
had the fouls not mounted the way they did. But again, if you're a Knicks fan, that team crossed a lot of things off the to-do list this year in terms of getting to the playoffs again, getting rid of the Pistons in a
Hmm.
really exciting series, taking down the Celtics, and they
Right.
might, in retrospect, they might have taken Boston out, even if Tatum had played the entire series based on what we saw. And then they gave the Pacers pretty much everything they could handle until game 6. So, again, you exhale a little bit. You don't want to lose to the Pacers. And I get the whole choke thing. I
Right.
understand it. It rubs you in your craw a little bit, sticks in your craw a little bit if you're a Knicks fan. But overall, I think you have to be thrilled with what the team did this year and really look forward to next year.
The future is bright in New York, and I mean they have the players in place for the most part. Could they have used guys that they got rid of this year, like the Isaiah Hartensteins, the Dante DiVincenzo's? They probably could have used at least one of those guys or somebody similar to that. I know they made those moves to get, the guys that they have now, like Bridges and Cat. But you, if they can get a couple of those small pieces in place, they're going to be in really good shape next year for sure.
Any thoughts on the playoffs? Who do you pick? I mean, this
OKC
the
is just
finals. I'm sorry, the
yeah,
finals, not the
no,
playoffs.
I got you. OKC is a monster, And while I like Indiana and I think Indiana is a strong team overall, OKC is just a juggernaut. These guys are built to win. They have the youth on their side, and this OKC team is going to be very good for a very long time if they can keep this core together. I think OKC wins it easily.
And one more thing, and you and I were talking about this last week and then off air before we came on, the job that Ernie Johnson and the TBS crew did this entire series. It was really fun to watch with them.
It really was. I mean, I've said it before. I think they are the best panel in sports, and it's not even close. I think the personalities all give way to each other, and they all give each other a chance to yell. And it's not that normal sports talk. Hey, I'm going to yell over you because I got a better point. Blah, 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 blah. I think they all give each other. They check the egos at the door. And Ernie Johnson is one of the most unsung sports hosts to me that's out in the industry today. He's criminally underrated for the job he does at getting all those egos together, at holding court, keeping them together, keeping them focused, letting everybody talk without interruption. And he's great at the power of pause. He's great at letting a thing be, not having to jump in with his point. He just keeps it all together and keeps it moving. He's like the traffic cop. But you know what? The thing that stuck out for me when they did their final sign off after the game 6, Ernie Johnson did something that I thought is so underrated. He was talking to Halliburton about winning game 6 and going on to the finals. They're talking about recap about the game 6 win and what did it mean and all the questions you would ask until he got to a point when somebody said something about OKC and he said, I'm not going to ask you anything about OKC because you'll have time for that tonight. You guys could celebrate. Just brilliant. You know what? Don't take it too far. Don't ask them what they want to do tomorrow. Let them enjoy it. And he did exactly what you or I or anybody sitting home would think to do. And he's so subtle, but so good at the same time at doing what he does. And to me, he's one of my favorite all-time sportscasters just for that alone.
He reads the room well, and the way you were describing it, he's acting not just as a host, but almost as a producer
Right.
while
Yes.
all of this is going on, which is very
Exactly.
difficult to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And but he's just so good and he's so smooth at it. Like it just one of those things that it comes naturally to him and you see it and the love he has for the game. And it just exudes it all. And I just can't get enough of him when he's on TV. Love him.
So New York sports fans took it on the chin with the Knicks getting bounced by the Pacers, and then the Yankees running into the Los Angeles Dodgers on the West Coast and losing 2 games out of 3. And, if you want to be the snide Yankee hater, I'll raise my hand here. This is what happens
Shocking.
when the Yankees face a good team. Right, granted, everybody's playing everybody. But, I mean, those first 2 games, especially the second
Yeah.
one, were embarrassing. But I did want to bring up one point with them. First, it's way too early to panic. They're in first place. Let's relax here.
Right.
So if you are a Yankee fan and you're a little bummed, all right, fine, I get it, but please. But they do need some starting pitching. As of right now, there are only 6 teams in Major League Baseball that are beyond 5 games out from a wild card spot. That's it. There's just 6 teams.
Right.
So we have all of June, July, August, and September to go. And obviously the trade deadline's coming up.
Right.
But these teams right now, Oakland, Baltimore, the White Sox, the Marlins, the Pirates, and the Rockies. So if you're a Yankee fan, I want you to go through those 6 teams. Take a look at the starting pitchers, and no, you can't have Paul Skeens.
Really? Come on. Isn't Skeens available?
I don't think so. Although, who knows? Listen, if the Yankees could put a package together,
Right.
but go through those 6 teams, take a look at their starting pitching, and say, who do I want from that team? Because there's somebody out there that the Yankees are going to go after.
For sure. Absolutely. It's no doubt they're going to go after somebody big and get somebody big by the deadline. They have to. I mean, the Dodgers, I was surprised knocked their number one for this year. Fried, they made him look pedestrian, which nobody's been able to do this year. I mean, he's been the anchor for sure. But baseball is a funny thing, Jim, because you look at They lost to guys like Tony Gonsolin and Landon Knack. But then Yamamoto, their ace, and they smacked them around last night. So go figure. They did at least take one game out of that series, so I kind of took a little bit of solace, and they did do it against the Dodgers, arguably their best pitcher. So there are things I did like at the end of the series, but there was a lot that, you and I were texting before the series started, and we were saying how this is going to be the litmus test coming in for this series. And they didn't really pass with flying colors, I'll say that. But they're going to have to retool, and I think Cashman's aware of it, and I think he'll do what needs to be done come, trade deadline time.
Again, it's early June, and that's baseball, Susan.
Well, that's baseball, Susan.
And that's another 2-minute drill for this week. It's Jim Monahan and Chris Swendeman. Download, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. And
All the things.
as we told you last week, if you like what we do, tell a friend. And if you don't like what we do, tell an enemy. Just tell somebody. Swendeman, we will talk later on this week.
You got it, Jim. Have a good one.